Gerrard slipped and get the pass in here. Rodriguez again. It's a stunning volley.
Hello there, listeners. Welcome back. It's For The Fans show, and our schedule's a mess, boys. I mean, let's just talk about it right now. We're a shambles. Anyone going to take responsibility? Anyone?
I will take responsibility as I've had exams. I'm in the middle of my exam period, so sorry about that, everyone.
Yeah. Jack, do you want to take any credit for that either, or?
No, I'm not taking any flack. I was ready to record on Tuesday night.
There is so much football going on every other day, so I feel like whenever we'd recorded, we would have missed some stuff.
We're always going to be out of date.
Excuses.
But hopefully, if Jack gets this up on a Friday night, which I mean, I'm now asking him to, you'll be laughing. You'll be loving this. Brilliant. So let's talk about the football. Now there is no feature this week. I will do a quick feature though. Keenan, would you like to go first or second?
We should say no.
First or second? First. This is the feature. First. Jack, first or second?
Third.
Second it is. Kino, who is in the final of the Champions League?
Atletico Madrid and Real Madrid.
Well done. Jack, over to you now. Who is in the final of the Scottish Cup? No, I'm joking. Europa League.
Hibernian.
I think the Scottish Cup's got a final, yeah.
It's Hibs.
No, Europa League.
Oh, well, that would be Sevilla. And
we'll be talking about both of those later on. But to kick things off, that's the end of the feature.
I like it.
To kick things off, we're going to talk about the biggest news in Premier League history, that Newcastle United have won a game against Crystal Palace. And no, is it not? Are we not starting with that? No, sorry. Leicester won the league. Leicester, they've won the bloody league. It's official. It's literally official now. Jack, do you think they can do it?
I still don't believe
Jack,
it.
are you on board yet?
I still don't believe it. I feel like tomorrow I'm going to watch Wes Morgan lift the Premier League trophy and I'm just going to cry because my whole life is going to have been alive for the last year and I'm going to wake up from the coma I've been in.
For the fans who have refused to back Leicester for the league for pretty much the whole season,
I think
Jack
me and
still
you
doesn't
have.
believe.
Yeah, I think me and you got on board a few weeks ago.
I think we came round after a certain point.
I still think it's mental.
It is mad. It's the. I will go as far as to say that it is the biggest story in my lifetime in regards to the Premier League.
Football-wise.
Yeah. In regards to the Premier League, it's the biggest.
It's not just the biggest. I mean, it's not the biggest story in your life.
I mean, yeah. I'm not going to say that 9/11 is something that I should top this with, but it was a big event in my life, I guess. But no, Leicester, I would say.
Well, when Katie Price with Pierre
heartbreaking moment, and they were in the jungle together. But no, I think this is the biggest moment, like the biggest shock, I should say, in my lifetime of football. I mean, I think that this tops Greece for me.
We did say, before the show that there's not. We kind of planned on really not saying too much about Leicester because there's not really much we can add, is there? Like it's pretty much all been said. It's simply stunning what they've done, and I hope. I mean, maybe this is a topic for another show, and a few people asked about it on Twitter. But I hope that they can sort of take this and be a fixture at the top end, because it'd just be great to see a team come from nothing and establish themselves.
Yeah,
going forward.
After the 5th year in a row, then we're all going to be.
But I think have you just copied one of my tweets there and said it out loud? How dare you?
I haven't seen that tweet.
I tweeted the exact thing, but I appreciate it anyway. But no, I think so. You think about where Leicester were this time last year. And they weren't safe this time last year, were they? I'm sure they weren't. There was still a couple of games to go. Nigel Pearson was in charge, and I think we discussed it recently. But the film's going to start in a weird way, isn't it? The Leicester film. It's going to start with Nigel Pearson's son and a couple of his Leicester pals. Because they always do that in sort of big Hollywood films. They always start in sort of an abstract area, and then credits roll, main film starts.
Well, what'll happen is it'll pan across the floor of Thailand hotel room, and there'll be the sound effects going on, and the title will come in, The Leicester Story, and then there'll be some groaning followed by some racial slurs.
The American audience will be thinking, "What is this? What happens in England? This is mental." But then it will, and then Danny DeVito. Oh no, sorry, that's the Sepp Blatter film. Sorry, I forget. But yeah, it is incredible.
And then I come on to play John Moss. Oh, I've got my role now.
You're officially in it. I mean, please apply. I mean, if it gets offered, you should definitely be applying. But it's an amazing achievement, I think. As Kino kind of points out, there's not much more we can say on it. We can, though, talk about the Chelsea-Spurs game, which was arguably my favourite Premier League game of the season, because I couldn't enjoy Liverpool versus Norwich. Too stressful. But the Chelsea-Spurs game, it had a bit of everything, didn't it? A bit of a fight, and I love a bit of a fight.
I'm hoping that this game turns into like the old Arsenal United games where it was Vieira and Keane. I'm hoping that now Spurs-Chelsea becomes this thing. I
think there's not enough. A big thing that made that though was arguably the managerial rivalry between Wenger and Ferguson. And I'm not sure Conte and Pochettino will get involved in that sort of that business. But Kino, did you like it when Pochettino soared onto the pitch to separate a fight? I mean, that's what you want to see.
It did get pretty tasty, didn't it, throughout that game? I mean, we can say that it's just been released that Moussa Dembele's been banned for, what is it, 6 games?
6 matches,
6 games for the eye gouging, which in my view is probably not enough. I think it was, Jack said it in rugby, it's like a 20-week ban, 28 weeks or something.
Yeah.
Although Spurs, a lot of the tackles that they put in and quite a bit of their conduct was quite poor. But part of me can kind of understand that, because you could see they could see the league slipping away before their eyes, and that entire season's work sort of vanishing with every Eden Hazard sort of little flick.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't excuse some of the challenges and some of the behaviour of their players, but it was a pretty difficult time.
Difficult. Well, Spurs set the record, didn't they, for 9 Premier League bookings. It's the most for one team.
I know.
In the history of the Premier League. 9 bookings is a lot. You think about that. Only 2 players have got into that dressing room thinking, well, I didn't get booked. Only 2. So who was it? Lloris and someone else.
Well, there were a few subs, to be fair. But how was there not a red card in this game? Like the amount
there was lots of yellows.
I mean, the amount of dirty tackles. Like Eric Dyer could have been off for a straight red.
He should have gone.
Lamela decided to stand on Fabregas's hand, because why not? That could have easily been.
Danny Rose put in a few poor challenges.
Walk had a little kick, which I don't want to say I've seen it given us a red card this year, but we have done. I think it was Stoke, and it might have been Shaqiri who got sent off for like flicking a stud at someone. Yeah. Like, I think that was actually the critical decision in this game. Very early on, Walker had gone, down the right hand side, and I can't remember who it was who he kind of kicked while they were on the floor, and it would have been very easy at that point to give him a yellow and set a precedent, and he let it go. And whilst there were bookings that followed, it just looked like the Spurs players didn't really care, and it was actually the first time I think this year where that Spurs side, that is a very young side, kind of showed an element of, I want to say immaturity, but just it looked like they were lacking someone just to kind of say, look, guys, we need this goal. It's 2-2. We're still in this, despite completely slipping up. And instead, they kind of took to this attitude of, let's just kick the crap out of Chelsea.
I think
they started pretty well, and you did think for a lot of that game that they were actually going to sort of not show that frailty, that mental frailty that you might perhaps expect young teams to show. And as soon as Eden Hazard came on for Chelsea, and we could talk about him a little bit more in a bit because his performance was outstanding in the second half. As soon as he came on, as soon as they began to apply the pressure, you did see them mentally question themselves. And it was at that point that the challenges started to go in, and the sort of the confrontations happened on the pitch, and it all sort of fell apart. I don't think you can... although Chelsea, I mean, you have to question when they can put in a performance like that, what the hell they've been doing for most of the season. But they did put in a very, very good performance in the second half. That was reminiscent of the team that was so dominant last year, and you just wonder why they couldn't show that a bit more this year, particularly Hazard.
Yeah, oh God, I was just going to say, it's amazing that in a game which had 12 yellow cards, John Terry, Gary Cahill and Diego Costa and Cesc Fabregas didn't get one. I think that's the most surprising point. Diego Costa, despite the fact being 12 yellow cards, didn't get a booking, but did have his eye poked. So, you know.
Just quickly on the subject of Costa, that was one of the things that annoyed me most about Spurs, really, because it was clear. I know Costa does get a bad rap, right, but it was clear that they were trying to wind him up throughout the game, almost constantly, and every little niggle that was going in on Costa was followed up by a sort of a comment or a little flick from a Spurs player, and it was clear that they were trying to wind him up. I think he did quite well actually not to rise to the bait, which is something that you wouldn't really expect from him. But I thought that was pretty good conduct from him and quite despicable.
It's amazing. Not only did he not get a yellow card, he became the victim in all of this, which I think was the most shocking outcome.
I was very conflicted, feeling sorry for him.
I didn't feel sorry for him, but I did find it comical. I think you're right about Spurs. Sorry, Jack, do you want to go on and say something?
I wanted to kind of make a point about Spurs. So we talked a little bit about Spurs, perhaps looking a bit immature. I thought the back actually early on, he looked a little bit nervy. There was a few wayward back passes. And I think the fact that Rose and Walker went in at half-time with a booking, and I don't want to say a fearful display from Spurs in the first half, but they looked a little bit scared, I think. The defence, there was there was a few misplaced passes around the back four. And I just wonder if that was kind of sensed a little bit by Hiddink, and that was why he brought on Hazard so soon. Because Hazard really took advantage of that. He was driving at the defence, he was causing all kinds of problems, and I think the kind of prime example, I guess, of that was the goal that he scored, which is an absolutely incredible finish for a player who he's got a lot of crap this year, and well, he's turned up.
But he has been crap this year.
Oh,
that's probably why.
I think they were saying that goal was his. It was exactly 1 year to the day since he'd scored his last home goal when he scored against Spurs. So
it's a lot, doesn't it?
It's like he's faked being bad all year just to crush Spurs' hopes and dreams.
Well, no, it's almost like there's a transfer window coming up, isn't there? It's a bit like that. It's like, you won't be in the Champions League. A transfer window's coming up. You know, Belgium will be in the Euros. It's almost like he's coming as a form at the right time. Who knew? I mean,
it showed that a lot of his problems weren't physical ones this year. It was all. It showed that it was either mental or
I think it started with Mourinho, didn't it, and then carried on.
And it sort of affected him throughout the whole year, for sure.
At half time, though, I don't know about you boys. Although Spurs looked a little bit nervy, went 2-0 up, and looked good. I thought, despite the fact they looked a little bit nervy at the back, going forward, constantly a threat, and they looked like they were playing the same sort of football we'd seen all year. Chelsea similarly looked like they were playing the same sort of football we'd seen all year, and. Were you shocked they came back? I was shocked they came back. I thought it was done.
And I think that was the thing that they said about the motivation. And Fabregas and Hazard had said before the game that they were playing Spurs and they didn't want them to win the title for the fans. And I think that definitely played a part. And part of me I don't really like the fact that it did play a part. The fact that they could only get up to try and put out their rivals, but who had been far better than them for the majority of the season. Jack.
I don't want to say I predicted that Chelsea were going to come back, but I did think Spurs. I think Spurs. Don't. I think Spurs actually showed like glimpses of the fact there were chinks in their armour that Chelsea could take advantage of in the first half. And I think that the more that Spurs lost their head, and to be fair, it happened towards the end of the first half when they really didn't need to get into that kind of situation when they were 2-0 up. They looked a little bit susceptible, I thought. I don't want to say it looked on the cards, but that Spurs side was not the Spurs side we've seen in a lot of other games, and I almost feel like perhaps the goals they scored early on pasted over the cracks a little bit.
Yeah.
I honestly don't know if I agree with that. I don't know if I agree with that. I think that's easy to say in hindsight, but I think during the game, I thought Spurs looked relatively in control, and then obviously they got their goals. And I actually think it was the Cahill goal that set it off. I'd be interested to know how many yellow cards came after the Cahill goal, because I think that was the goal that Spurs realised that actually, look, if we concede one more here, then we're in big trouble to the point where we can't win this league.
And we talk about that. I think credit has to go to Leicester, because the pressure that they managed to leverage on Spurs going into the game, that Spurs knew that if any crack, if they showed any sign of weakness and Chelsea were able to pounce on it and they dropped anything, that was the league title gone.
Obviously, Chelsea knew what was at stake, didn't they? That was the thing, though. Chelsea knowing what was at stake and the fans knowing what was at stake. And I think as much as the players didn't want Tottenham to win the trophy there, the fans they made it almost like a Leicester home game, and Tottenham had gone away, I'm sure that affected Spurs in some way because they knew, and as soon as the Hazard goal went in, it went off even more. Eric Dyer looked like he was trying to get himself sent off. Not only could he have been sent off, he looked like he was trying to. And
I think Spurs knew at that point that they were.
It's just sad. I hope it doesn't define their season because you see incidents like this happen, and I mean, I draw to Gerrard falling over, and for some people that defines Liverpool season that year when it was a great season, and you worry that this might be that moment for Spurs, the game which they absolutely lost their cool. Admittedly, they weren't in control, but it's a shame.
As a non-Liverpool fan, I have to say that it does define that season for me and that moment. I think Pochettino put it quite well. The same. Yeah, Pochettino put it quite well after the game when he said that this is such a young team, and he wasn't too worried about the fact that they'd sort of fallen off in this game as they did because they are so young and they're obviously going to improve, and that's the exciting thing about Spurs. And that's why, as a Spurs fan, I wouldn't be too worried by the way that they finish the season because they are only going to get better, and it's an exciting time to be a Spurs fan.
They'll get better if they stay together, though. You've got to think a team like Spurs, as great a season they've had, and they really have. We've raved about it for especially the second half of the season. We've gone wild for them. But you do worry that they're not a club that can they haven't got a team stacked full of stars. So they're the kind of team that the big teams, I'm talking like the top 10 teams in the world, will look at and think, can we maybe get a Harry Kane? Can we get a Dele Alli? Can we get Eriksen even? Who's not can we get... There's lots of options there, aren't there? That Spurs, as long as they keep hold of their team and add to it properly, because they're going to need to. They're still going to be in the Champions League this season. If you'd have given Spurs second at the start of the season, they'd have bitten your hand off. But you've now got to keep that team together.
I think the important thing you say, they could lose their players. I think keeping hold of Pochettino is probably the most important thing because you would expect, maybe not next season, but over the next couple of years, if he continues that trajectory, he'll be the big clubs will be sniffing around him, the sort of the European elite, because at every team he's managed, he's shown remarkable improvement and ability to sort of motivate players, and he has a very good culture and style of play that he sort of inspires in his teams, and is able to communicate that across in quite a short space of time. It's very impressive the way he's chained that Spurs.
I did think one of you raised an interesting point when you said Spurs can only get better, because whilst I agree with that in sentiment, the issue they've got with the young squad and the fact they will probably only get better is the fact that I think a lot of what's played into their placement this year in the league is circumstance, and I just wonder even if they get better, are teams like City, United, Chelsea, I can't see them performing how they have done this year. And I just wonder if even if Spurs get better, are they realistically still going to be able to progress as a team that can win the Premier League in the next 5 years?
Have they missed their chance?
Yeah, I think Arsenal fans can feel a similar way this year. Was this a year when really you look at Leicester winning the league? This was a year where if you told these teams you're going to finish above the likes of Chelsea, United, City, they probably would have gone, so you mean we're going to be in a title race kind of thing and we should be winning the league? And I don't know, I feel like that ship might have sailed. That's not to say I don't think Spurs will win the league, but I think I don't feel we can look at it and go, well, they have a young squad, they're going to get better and they're going to do better in the league. Because I feel like...
It's a similar situation. Can I compare it to, when Dortmund had those seasons where they're fantastic and you thought, oh, this team's still pretty young, can only get better. And then you realise that actually Bayern Munich are going to try bloody hard to get this back. And what ended up happening was Bayern Munich did come back pretty bloody strong as well. And Dortmund lost some of their best players to Bayern Munich, ironically enough. And I worry that a similar thing could happen. If Manchester United decide they want Harry Kane and they say, it's 50 million, we want Harry Kane, it's going to be very difficult for Daniel Levy. I mean, if there's one chairman that might turn it down, it's probably Daniel Levy, right? But it's that sort of situation that Spurs are going to have to deal with this summer, because they've played so well this year that there'll be lots of clubs thinking this guy will improve us, and it's going. I hope they stay together, because I think the more competitive the Premier League is at the top end, the more interesting it makes it. And so I'm delighted they had a good year, but I hope they stay together now. And Pochettino stays as well. I think you make a good point that he's so pivotal to that team, isn't he? Shall we move on to the European games? I mean, as we said, we can't really talk about Leicester because wherever it's been said about Leicester has literally been said about Leicester. I think we're all pleased though. On the whole, right? In summary, I think we're
I'm
delighted this has happened.
I don't know how to feel. I feel a little bit bitter as a Liverpool fan, thinking, well, if Leicester can win the league, we should be bloody winning the league.
Well, that is one thing about Leicester. It's that every other team that has a lower wage budget or was in the same position should from now on, will be thinking, why can't we do a Leicester whenever they're
does it remove the excuse for managers who take over lower league teams and then an example would perhaps be, say, Pardew at Palace kind of went down this year. Does it eliminate that as an excuse for why Palace go down? I try to avoid the teams already down there because obviously they're teams that, I don't want to say they were expected to be down there, but they kind of were. Whereas I kind of look at Palace as being a similar team to Leicester in some ways, but perhaps even better off than what Leicester were at this time last year, with the exception of Leicester's form, because I think they won 7 of their last 9. But does it eliminate the excuse for managers when they kind of say, we haven't got the money to compete with the big teams and we've got to play for our place in the Premier League?
I think going forward it will do, yeah, for sure. I think that although, as we mentioned, the big teams are only going to get stronger now. They're only going to strengthen, particularly after this poor season and this sort of anomalous season. But I think it does. Questions will be asked of managers in that similar positions by fans probably a lot quicker now than they might have been before.
I think you've nailed it there, actually. Yeah,
I think
fans
will
on that.
More...
I think fan expectation will change now. Whether I think above that, will it change? Board wise, will it change? Probably not. Probably not a great deal.
And media on a media level as well.
Media. I think from the outside there'll be a lot more pressure, especially going into next season. If the big clubs, any of the big clubs start poorly, any of them. I'm talking the generic top 6 is what I'm talking about. Any of them start poorly, they'll be gone. And the situation like Leicester is piling pressure on managers like Martinez. And I think they're the managers that are going to suffer now. You're right when you say of teams like Palace. I think a Mark Hughes even at Stoke. If they start poorly next year, I think it reflects. I think we'll see some early sackings next season because not all these teams can have good starts to the year, and it's going to be interesting. But we'll see though.
Very interesting.
But yeah, they've bloody done it. I can't believe it. And as you made the point, Jack, about Liverpool, I think I did a tweet earlier in the week when they won it that as a football fan, I think this is bloody brilliant. As a Liverpool fan, this is great. Yeah, love this. Wonderful. But as I said at the time, we should make it about them. It shouldn't be about Leicester have won it and Liverpool haven't. It should be about Leicester and then winning it.
We should make this podcast about Liverpool now because
we will. Are we using the Champions League as a main event? I'm all for it. Okay. Well, yes. Liverpool took a 1-0 defeat to their game at Anfield against Villarreal, and I predicted before the game that I thought it'd be 4-0, 4-1. It wasn't. It was 3-0. But yeah, good, Jack.
The performance was still just as good. Yeah.
How do you feel about it, Jack? Happy?
I'm bloody delighted, mate. I honestly, at the start of the year, didn't really think this was something that was going to be on the cards. If you told me Liverpool are going to get to 2 cup finals this year, I would have taken it. If you'd tell me you're going to get to both and not win anything, I might be a little bit more... I feel like a lot of people are talking about, yes, we've got to a cup final, when in reality, people don't remember their team that comes second in a cup final unless it's AC Milan in 2005, 2004.
I think people will remember that performance though last night because it was so damn good. It was one of
my big gripe with Liverpool going into this game, and my big worry was, can we realistically keep a clean sheet against Villarreal? And yes, they didn't look particularly threatening in the first leg. But Villarreal are going very well in Liga BBVA. Let's make no exceptions. They are performing and punching above their weight.
I like the official. The official name.
I know what you mean, right? And that's what was said when Liverpool got this draw. And I kind of said, if there was a team I could have picked, it would have arguably been Villarreal. And people are going, we can't say that. They're doing well in La Liga. I don't know if you've noticed, but league form means pretty much piss all when it comes to Europe. Look at Liverpool. Liverpool being the key example of a team that are massively underperforming. Look at the top teams around Europe that have suffered. Barcelona have had a poor sort of end to their season. PSG have had a poor run in the Champions League. You think, like contextually, you know what I mean? It doesn't really matter. I know Villarreal are having a good season. But when it comes to these one-off games, and I know it sounds a bit sycophantic because I'm a Liverpool fan and whatnot, but there aren't many teams who get a home draw in Europe, and it's almost like... there's this feeling of knowing. It's weird. There's a point in the game where you kind of just know that it's going to be okay. And I don't get that with league games.
I think the early goal really defined this game. It's something that I feel has been a big issue for Liverpool over the last few seasons, particularly under Rodgers, was this anxiety that seemed to
Can I have a little glass of milk
throughout the team if the early goal didn't go in on a big occasion, on a game that was really defining.
Okay,
and in this game, obviously, it was... I don't want to say it was the perfect start, but I can't think of many better starts. I think there was a little bit of nervousness in the air. You know, the atmosphere was obviously absolutely incredible before the game. But as soon as the first whistle went of the game, there was this... is anxiety the right word? There was this air of... I don't want to say uncertainty, but it felt like it needed that early goal.
I think short of putting 3 or 4 past them in the first 20 minutes, I think it was the perfect start. What was most noticeable about Liverpool... I mean, I haven't watched enough of them in the league so far this season, really, to probably say that, but... the intensity with which they started the game, Villarreal for at least the first half an hour, and this was helped by the crowd as well, who were really on top.
And the Villarreal goalkeeper.
And the Villarreal goalkeeper, but they did not know what was going on. It was clear that they had never experienced an atmosphere and a style of play like this regularly, and they didn't really know how to deal with it. And I remember saying to Ben while we were watching it, I was saying, this is how. And Klopp's style does resemble an English style at times. This is how England and other English teams in Europe should play. This is the blueprint for what you can take the best bits of the English game, combine it with the quality that you need to succeed against good teams, and take that to a team like Villarreal, who are obviously Spanish. They don't play this type of football every week. And that's the style of play that I think England and English teams can use to great success. And I think the fact that for the last probably 5 years, since the success of Guardiola's Barcelona, I think we've tried to replicate their style too much instead of going away and coming up with a way to use our strengths that we have, like our incredible atmospheres and grounds, to our advantage in a slightly different way. I think Liverpool set the blueprint for that last night, because it was, in my eyes, a pretty perfect performance all round.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's one of those things that Liverpool are a very difficult team to scout right now, because since the beginning of I'd probably say after the first leg against Manchester United, Jurgen Klopp has kind of said, don't really give a shit about the league anymore, so let's just do whatever we want in that Europa League. That's what we're going to focus on. And boy, have we. I mean, it's one thing to say, or to sort of... We have... And I say this, I'm not that annoyed about it in a weird way. We've given up with the league. We gave up about 2 months ago. We don't really care anymore. And to say that and have the confidence that you'll progress in Europe is bold by Jurgen Klopp. I'm not shocked, but...
Is that brave or stupid, or is that like just both? Is bravery stupidity...
It's kind of belief in his own ability to get the best out of his best players. Like it's no coincidence that Liverpool's first team have become a European side. Like Liverpool's first team are not playing in the Premier League right now. They haven't done for about 2 months. Liverpool haven't played their best 11, but their absolute best 11 in a league game, arguably since those Manchester United matches. And I don't think we'll see it again this season. Frankly, I think again we're playing. I forget who it is this weekend. Someone help me out, Jack. Come on, this is you, Jack. Come on, mate.
Put me on the spot here.
I forget who it is.
Let's go through the teams it isn't. Right, everyone.
Much like Jurgen Klopp listeners, me and Jack do not care about the league anymore.
I've got to be honest, it is like that. Like I watched the Swansea game at the weekend, and I watched the start of it, and then I was just like at half time at 2-0. Yeah, I'm not watching the rest of it. I'm sorry, I'm not going to watch our B team just get hammered. Is that bad of me to just be like, I had it up on a second monitor, but I was like, the Russian Grand Prix's on now, I'm going to watch that instead.
I think it's quite pragmatic.
It's Watford on Sunday.
It's Watford, yeah. I mean, watch it, folks. We will not play our best 11. You'll see 5 of the players that played
That's
in the
ambitious.
game just gone.
2 or 3?
Yeah, maybe it won't be 5, and you'll see all the kids. That's what we'll do. And maybe I love the girl, if you're lucky.
There's something about rotating your outfield players. It's the fact that we're playing Ward in goal instead of Mignolet, which I don't know what to make of that. Is that just a case of... It's something you do in Football Manager when you want your goalkeeper to get some more first-team experience to develop. But I don't know, Mignolet, if I'm Mignolet, I'm a little bit annoyed at the fact it's just like, yeah, we're just keeping you fit, mate. No injuries.
I feel bad
now.
because I think a lot of the players playing in these Premier League matches are fighting for next season spots, and because there's sort of 6 or 7 of them trying to do that, you don't really win matches that way. Sadly, with the, sort of your backup players constantly. But you're right, we played in a way, and it was like we played with a bit of an attitude of, look, this is Anfield. Are you ready for this, Villarreal? Are you serious? Like, you say you're up for this, and you say you're ready for this. We'll see if you are. And then gave it to them.
It was. I mean, kind of moving.
It was aggressive. It was very aggressive.
Yeah, and it was a total contrast to what we saw at the Bernabeu from Man City, who far from trying to win the game and impose their style on Real Madrid, they seemed to just roll over it and let the game pass them by. I mean, it was for me one of the most disappointing performances in a big game I've seen from a team this season. It was
before we go on City, sorry, just very quickly. Obviously, Liverpool will now play Sevilla in the final in Switzerland. The big sort of question
off there this summer, actually.
Well, I want to ask you about this, folks, because they play there. They play in Switzerland. Is it in Zurich? I'm not sure. Basel. Sorry, it's in Basel. The stadium means Liverpool get an allocation of just over 10,000 tickets for a European final. Seems dreadful. Seems unfair. I know why they're doing it though. I was looking into this earlier today. The reason for it is because, for example, Sevilla and Villarreal wouldn't fill 60,000. So UEFA have looked at it and gone, well, we'll make it smaller then. Not with the anticipation that a team like Liverpool, and I'm not trying to be sort of big-headed here, but Liverpool are a big side for a European final that would fill the allocation quite comfortably, and that's why they've done it essentially. Interesting, but still shouldn't be 10,000.
Well, the thing is, the Basel Stadium itself only holds less than 40,000 fans.
It's 33,000 it holds.
I read some stats like the 112th smallest ground. Like, I don't want to say, look, you can't host a European final, but it just seems a bit mad.
I don't want to say that FIFA are based in Switzerland, and
Well, it's UEFA who decide that, so.
Well,
I reckon Sepp will be there in his golf cart, travelling to the ground, having a wonderful time.
But obviously, it's nice to see it go to different places of the world, but it's just like, it's not. For example, the Johnson Paint Trophy had 50,000 fans go to it this year. That's going to be more than the Europa League.
When you put it like that,
it's Switzerland's main. I don't know if it's Switzerland's main stadium.
It is the one that they played the national team.
It's 30. It can seat 37,000 for international matches, and I guess we can kind of compare to that. But to get 10,000 from that is it's just a bit galling. I
feel like it's a debate that happens every year to do with like the commercial.
We see it at the FA Cup final all the time.
We'll see it at the Euros this year, won't we? That's the thing. We'll see it then as well. But it's just a bit. It just makes me feel a little bit sad that you've got 40,000 crammed into Anfield, and like 1 in 4 of them will get a chance to go see them at the final, and it's just I don't know. Not a big fan of it. I've got to be completely honest. Right then, should we move on to? And obviously they play Sevilla. Predictions for the game. I think Sevilla obviously have won it back to back, so it could be interesting.
They are a team, while not doing as well as someone like Villarreal and Liga. I think they're a more complete team. Certainly more experienced, obviously, in the competition. I think it'll be a difficult game. I can't really call it because I think that, as you say, Liverpool are so unpredictable at the moment. I know they're good in Europe. It's a final. It can go out either way.
Ourselves and Sevilla have had very similar seasons in that we're so underwhelming in the league, but then you play in Europe and suddenly we're the best. We're one of the top 4 teams in Europe officially at this point, Jack. I mean,
I kind of like Sevilla's attitude. I like Sevilla's attitude of, right, guys. So what happens is we win the Europa League every year, then we finish 3rd in the Champions League group stage. And we win it again, like tactically playing for it.
It's a system.
I think that this game is going to be a really close game. I'm looking forward to it. It's not actually that far away either. Like, you forget how close.
Can I be bold and say I think Liverpool win it?
Well, I think
Liverpool win it quite easily. I'm not even trying to be like big-headed. I just think we'll win it 2 or 3. I just think we will.
See, I just think it's going to be a close game, but I don't know.
Liverpool best team is better than Sevilla's best team. 5-0.
It's going to be close.
Kino, I mean, you're impartial here. Me and Jack have basically just said we're going to batter them. So,
I think it'll be a very narrow result. Sure.
In favour of who?
I could even see it going to a classic Liverpool penalty shootout final.
I can't deal with
that. So who wins? I can't deal with that. No, thank you.
I can't deal with that. No, I've had that in the League Cup and heartbreak. I know what that feels like this year.
I'll trump with Liverpool as they are,
so that's official then. For the fans, backing Liverpool in the Europa League final. Now, let's go
Ben, you can lower the gun from Kino's head now.
Yeah, all right. You're right there, Kino. You're sweating a bit. You're all right. Yeah, good. Right.
I'm fine.
Let's head over to Real Madrid versus Manchester City then. After the first leg, 0-0, we all sort of said that was quite a good result, really. And then it came to the second leg, and Real Madrid, I wouldn't say convincingly beat Manchester City, but I would say that Manchester City have arguably gifted Real Madrid a place in the final.
I've got a fact for you. You ready for this?
Oh, yes. I work the space fact. It's like the World Cup 2014, everyone. Are you excited?
This is one of the good ones.
Here we go.
If you don't score a goal, you don't win a game. There you go. There's the fact.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Mr. Owen.
Sorry, I must admit, Aguero didn't have a shot. Well, City didn't have a shot on target, I don't believe, against Real Madrid.
Hang on. You haven't got a fact?
Oh, I have. I've got a fact now. I'm going to redeem myself with some actual facts.
Good.
So, in this game, City didn't have a shot on target, but Aguero, last 6 European games, hasn't had a shot on target. Is that good enough from a man who, for a lot of these games, they've played as their lone striker? Discuss.
I think it was Aguero's isolation against Real Madrid was perhaps the most visible, other than City's pure incompetence in possession, was perhaps the most visible thing. Yeah, he did, and throughout the second half, it was almost painful to watch him drop so deep, sort of Rooney-esque, actually, to try and get the ball. He was basically playing sort of next to the stationary Yaya Toure for most of the second half.
Did Yaya Toure
Can we talk about Yaya Toure?
Did he move?
Well,
Yeah, of course he can.
I think what worries me about Yaya Toure is that Pellegrini has picked him because he's Yaya Toure, and I don't think Pellegrini. This is a season that Pellegrini could have been remembered forever for, and he won't be now. City have had a poor league finish. Champions League semi-final. So what? I mean, it doesn't matter when you're a club like City that wants to be winning this tournament. So what? You've won a Capital One Cup, but to go out in such a whimper against Real Madrid and to pick a player like Yaya Toure, who for all his qualities, someone said to me, but he's a great player on his day. When was his last great day? Like, when was the last time we saw Yaya Toure be this sort of colossal midfielder, just controlling everything, running with the ball, looking threatening? Every time he got the ball, he ran four paces and passed it again. Every single time. And then he wouldn't chase back.
Very rare.
And I mean, you can do that, right? You can play that simple standard of football if you're prepared to chase back. Like, Toni Kroos is quite a good example of it, actually. Gets the ball, gives it again, and then will work back and dig in when he needs to. Yaya Toure cannot be doing that, especially like away against Real Madrid. It's an appalling performance.
It reminds me of when I used to play junior football, and there was this referee you never wanted to get. He was quite a large bloke, and all he did was he ran circles around the centre circle following the play. Like, he never left the centre circle. That is what Yaya Toure does. He's out of prison. He's been told, like, Yaya, you stay in the middle.
I know the type, Jack. I know the type.
I think that referee's got it right. I respect it. But no, I was very disappointed, and you kind of touched on it before, Kino, when you talked about Liverpool, and that City should be setting up. So, and you don't want to go, like, admittedly, you don't want to go to Real Madrid and go at them, but Madrid at times didn't look like. I guess the point we'll make is that I think if Atletico win the final, nobody's going to be that shocked. Let's put it that way, because there are opportunities to get at Real Madrid, and Man City didn't get at them enough, anywhere near enough.
You can see, and Madrid, this has been a characteristic of Madrid whenever they've not had Casemiro when he's not been fit under Zidane. As Casemiro is their only defensive midfielder, for all intents and purposes, they are quite willing, and Zidane is quite willing, knowing full well that they are not good at the back and they are not a particularly solid team that are able to control games. They're quite willing to just stack 8, 9, 10 men behind the ball at any period. And they basically did. I mean, you'd expect Madrid fans who are known for getting on the backs of their teams very, very swiftly. You'd have expected them to be a little bit pissed off about what they saw against City, because they were so ready just to sit in at home and let City sort of just dominate possession, because I think Zidane knows that they're not good enough to sort of play a more attacking style and soak up any pressure that comes their way. They're definitely there for the taking, and that's almost what made City's performance even more disappointing, as you say, because Real Madrid were clearly there. They are not the Real Madrid that won the. They don't have the counter-attacking power, I think, that they did two years ago when they won the Champions League last. And I think they were definitely there to be beaten.
I feel like as much as we can criticise City, there's always going to be this what if moment because the fact Company went off after 10 minutes. And I know we can't be entirely surprised by the fact he's got injured, but I do wonder how much that factored into just a change in City's game plans. Because I feel like the midfield, when you know you've got Vincent Company at the back, you feel a little bit more able to push forward without that kind of weight of the defensive responsibility, that kind of what if in the back of your mind, particularly against a team like Real Madrid.
Sure.
And I feel like losing that rock really, I mean, as I said, there's always going to be this air of kind of what if. And as much as I want to empathise with that point of view, and I'm sure there'll be City fans who feel like it could have been a completely different game if he doesn't get injured. That is Vincent Kompany's season in a nutshell. That is what his season has consisted of this year, is injuries. And
he's the defensive version of Daniel Sturridge in so many ways.
For sure.
But for me, right, you're saying that, and I think it's interesting that you mentioned the Company substitution. I do think it affects the midfield's mentality, but and kind of we look at Madrid and we think, well, Madrid have played very reserved there for a team that are Real Madrid in a Champions League semi-final at home at the Bernabeu with Zinedine Zidane as their manager, with Ronaldo playing up front. You probably expect a bit more. But actually, I thought they managed the game really well. I think it's easy to say, Madrid should do more, but they've come away, they've got the goal they wanted, they sat back and defended really well. And it was almost like Pellegrini's plan, and this is a shit plan, was, right, Navas, you hang out on that right wing, try and get out Marcelo when he pushes forward. De Bruyne, Aguero, you're really good, so just do really good stuff. I know that sounds really basic, right? But that looks like, especially in the first half, that was literally the plan. Get it to De Bruyne, get it to Aguero, and hopefully they'll do something great. And the problem was, they were getting the ball quite high at the pitch and had no support whatsoever, apart from the very obvious option of Jesus Navas, because Yaya Touré decided he's not going to run today. So I thought it was a bit naive from Pellegrini, and a lot more could have been done. And I said to you, Kino, that if Delph starts instead of Yaya Touré, City arguably look a little bit more threatening, which is a crazy thing to say when you think about the calibres of each of the players. But it would certainly have given Modric and Kroos something to think about. And everybody was saying, and I mentioned this before we started recording, Takino, that, Luka Modric is a fantastic footballer. He's a great footballer, one of the best midfielders in the world. But he looks even better when you give him the entire pitch to play with. You have Fernandinho and Fernando sat pretty deep. You've got Yaya Touré plodding about. When you give Luka Modric a massive amount of space and give him runners like Hesse, Bale and Ronaldo, Luka Modric will look like not only one of the good midfielders in the world, the best midfielder in the world. And for 60 minutes he did do, until they decided to bring on Sterling for Yaya Touré. And then you may have noticed Modric didn't have much of an impact after that. It was weird, and they even took him off sort of late in the game, but it kind of didn't really matter at that point. Sorry, I went on a big rant there, but carry on. Someone else?
No, you were spot on. I think that Sterling actually looks okay. And you say it was naive from Pellegrini to sort of expect De Bruyne and Aguero to just conjure up something magical. I think it showed us, and this is strange, you'd expect of a team of the resources of City, the fact that Pellegrini is his last big game, that they didn't look as though they'd scouted Madrid very well, because I think that pattern of play from Madrid, the fact that they've been willing to sit back a little bit more, has been quite apparent for while Zidane's been the manager. Obviously, he hasn't had a transfer window, hasn't had a pre-season to make any sort of tactical changes fundamentally to the squad. So he has been relying a little bit on that ability of Madrid to break quickly and just to soak up pressure. And it looked as though City weren't prepared to attack that very well. It was a strange performance.
It felt to me like City were set up to play their game when you can't do that against the likes of Real Madrid in Europe. You've got to.
City weren't good enough, Jack. That was the thing, right?
Yeah.
City may well be set up to play their game, but they're just not good enough.
Well, that's what I was going to get onto, is the fact that against a team like Real Madrid away from home, you cannot play your game and expect it to work. You have to prepare the players, their opposite number, let them know what they need to be aware of, how Real Madrid are going to play, and try and cancel that. You are not good enough, and you don't have the capability to hold the ball well enough to go to the Bernabeu and boss a game. And that was it looked as if City was set up like they were going to go and play, Watford at the weekend. Watford, no disrespect to Watford, but that's the first thing that came into my head. That's a compliment. But it just looked to me like there was...
They'll beat Liverpool at the weekend. So, credit to Watford.
There was just no preparation. It looked as if the players didn't really know what to do, and there wasn't ever... I know it's very difficult to change a game once you're on the pitch in this kind of game and really shift the balance. But at no point in this game did part of me think City are going to get a win here. They never looked likely. And, well, the only real chance that sticks out to me was the Aguero really speculative shot with a minute or two left.
Yeah. The dipper. It nearly went in. It was decent, wasn't it? But yeah, it's a shame. I mean, we're slagging off City. I thought Joe Hart, again, proved to be... Well, I think he's one of the best keepers in the world. I'm happy to say it. I think England are lucky to have him going to the Euros. I think he's in good form.
Oh, for sure. I don't feel like it's harsh to slam City in this kind of manner, but I think you have to consider that they were playing against Real Madrid. They've got to the semi-final of the Champions League, which is progress so far as they're concerned. Perhaps they wanted to take it one or two steps over and try and win the whole thing, as of course every team does.
Yeah.
And it's a shame, really, because I feel like if City were to finish in the top three in the league comfortably and get a semi-final here, knowing that obviously Pellegrini's leaving, it perhaps wouldn't be seen as a failure of a season, whereas there seems to be this air and this kind of general consensus that this year, as far as City's concerned, has been a bit of a flop. Let's not forget, they won the League Cup as well. It's not exactly the most prestigious trophy, and I'm sure that as a lone trophy to win this year just isn't good enough. But I feel like if City come and do something in this game, even if they look like they have a chance of winning, they actually score across the two legs. Like, they suddenly get a heap more praise.
Jack. That was what was so disappointing, was the manner in which they bowed out. If they'd had a good go and they'd lost narrowly...
To touch on that keynote, right? Sorry to come in there, but to sort of go on from your point, they're the away team. A goal for them is almost as good as two. And that's what was infuriating about it. A goal for City, especially when the first game's 0-0, Madrid didn't get the away goal. You go to the Bernabeu, go at them for 20 minutes. See, it's just annoying because you see City and sometimes you see them play well and you think you're one of the best teams in the world, and you see them do that against Madrid and just think this is why you don't progress further than this, because you're not prepared to try harder. And it's going to be so interesting to see what Guardiola does. I mean, I'm excited for it because I don't know what he's going to do, which makes it more exciting, if anything. Speaking of Pep Guardiola, he's out. We will not get... I mean, there was the talk of, a Bayern City final would be good. Neither of them make it because Simeone, as crazy as he is in my book, he's a genius. I think he's fantastic. Callum,
I agree.
You're a fan.
As you will probably know, I could wax lyrical about Simeone for hours. But I just thought that what Atletico do and did against Bayern last week. Well, no, on Tuesday. No other team in the world could do that. Absolutely none. Rio Ferdinand sort of admitted that in his analysis when it was on TV. Is that you have to, for most teams to go and play the way that they do against the best teams in the world on a regular basis. For most teams to go and defend like that, you'd have to expect it to be like a perfect day. You'd expect it to be everything goes right. Your keeper's having an incredible game. Your centre-halves are playing out of their skin. Atletico do that on a routine basis. They can do it every week, whenever they want. And what's most impressive, and I think this is the thing that really sort of was noticeable about this game in particular, was the way that not only can they do that, but then they can change in the space of sort of 5-10 minutes, and for different spells of the game, they can then play a sort of pressing, aggressive style. Get the goal that they need, and then fall back into this almost impenetrable sort of defensive like block. And they have the quality to do that and to go and play in one's manner, quickly adapt to the other. And I think that is all down to the manager ultimately, and that is why, like you say, Simeone is just so much of a genius.
Perhaps perceptively negative subs that were made by Atletico. I know the job was done, and that's kind of the Atletico way, and certainly the Simeone way, to kind of change when needed to be. But I think it was Partey who came on, who's kind of a bit of a centre mid rock.
Yeah.
And I did wonder at that point, like I think it was still 2-0 at that point. Not 2-0, but they had the advantage, and then of course Bayern knew it wasn't going to go to extra time, so they needed to get the 2 goals. And I don't know, there was part of me that worried for, is this going to backfire? But they just looked so confident, Atletico. Obviously, they had that penalty near the end to really put it beyond doubt and fluff the lines. Of course, there were 2 penalties in this game.
I think we do dice with this a little bit. We say how good Atletico were. They still conceded 2, but it was the way that after the second went in, Simeone decided, okay, then this is where we stop now. Like, this is where we shut the door. We quite literally say, try if you want. And Oblak was fantastic in goal for Atletico, by the way.
Yeah, I think in that situation where Bayern Munich, who are undoubtedly one of the world's best teams, most teams in that situation would have capitulated under that amount of pressure at the Allianz, which is a very difficult place to go.
We talked about Spurs Tottenham earlier. Like, maybe, yes, different circumstances, but there is one team there that are... I wouldn't say they don't trust Pochettino, but they're young, so they've still got to learn how to deal with that scenario. Atletico have been doing this for a few years now. They know exactly what they're doing, where they're supposed to be, and what Simeone expects. And sorry, I'll let you carry on, but point made.
Yeah, and we've mentioned about Simeone before. Like, he's able to, even in the new players and perhaps the young players as well, he's able to get that philosophy over to them just so quickly, and they're able to buy into that and trust in his instructions on such a pressure cooker stage that was that game, a Champions League semi-final. It's incredible to watch. And honestly, I'd love to see how, and you said Guardiola, and that's going to be really exciting next year. I'd love to see what Simeone could do at a team like an Arsenal in the Premier League, because it will be fascinating to see if he can mould those players in a different environment, because he's shown he can do it in Europe against teams that aren't from Spain. He's shown he can do it on a domestic level as well. So, it would be great.
Jack, who do you fancy for the final then? A Madrid derby?
I said Atletico before the semi-finals. I have to stick with my guns. I feel like Atletico really showed that they deserve to be in the final with their Bayern Munich performance. And I feel like, as City showed kind of in the home tie, Real Madrid can be shut out. And I think Atletico are perhaps better suited to shut out Real Madrid than City were. So I can see Atletico winning 2-0 maybe. Keep a clean sheet.
Wow, I like the thought of it. Interesting for Bayern as well. Guardiola will be gutted, but he'll move on to City, and we're going to enjoy that next season as Premier League fans. Right then, I think we'll try and make this an hour, gentlemen, if you don't mind. Try and keep it shorter than normal.
Do we want to talk about the Championship? Because there is a big. I know that it's not really in the script, but I feel like we should talk. We should just nod our heads to the Brighton game that goes on tomorrow. So if you don't know the scenario, Burnley. You're in the Premier League.
Hold on. We'll talk about Burnley first.
Have you got any? Right. Okay. Keno, I'll hold fire. I know what we're doing here. Jack, tell me about Burnley.
I love Burnley. Sorry, was that the right answer?
Right. Well, Burnley are promoted. One claret and blue team's come down. One's gone up. Pleased with that, Keno, or not bothered? Don't care anymore.
I was looking forward to playing Burnley next year, but sadly it's
I will say, Turf Moor, lovely stadium.
Sadly, they got promoted. So.
Turf Moor. There's a little clubhouse at Turf Moor, and it's next to the cricket.
Is it? I've heard bad things about Turf Moor.
I mean, the seats were wooden when I went and really uncomfortable.
That's what I've heard.
But no, there's a little clubhouse off like a cricket club nearby. So if you ever go to Burnley, go there. Away and home fans mixed. When I was there, get a cheap beer too.
Well,
do you work for the Burnley Tourist Board? What's going on?
Well.
Okay.
You're on to me.
I mean, when I talk about Burnley, I didn't mean the place.
Sorry.
Anyway, I'm in the full team. Sean Dyche, to credit to him, has done well to get them back up. I think they're one of those sort of yo-yo-y teams, aren't they? They're in the kind of that category of teams that go up, come down.
I do think it's quite good to see them go back up, because obviously there is this talk with a lot of teams who get promoted for the first time where there's this element of we go up to the Premier League once, we just count our pennies, come back down and then look to bounce back whilst the parachute payments are still coming in for the next 3 years. And I always feel like that is like this high risk thing, because the Championship is just such a tough division. You look at teams like Borough, who have been on the cusp of going up for so long. And I'm just pleased that in Burnley's case, it's worked, and they've stuck with a lot of the players that got them up the first time. The likes of Vokes, who, of course, I think he scored the winning goal in their 1-0 win against QPR in the last game of the year, which obviously they played, which guaranteed them promotion. And it's kind of good to see players like him, who didn't get a chance in the Premier League before because he was injured for a massive part of the season, stick with the club, but buy into the plan. And I think Burnley posted profits of £30 million this year. I mean,
not bad.
That's not bad for a Championship team. When you hear of the likes of Bolton, who of course are just completely the other end of the spectrum when it comes to things like that. And I think it's testament to how to run a club. And I hope that teams that go down might learn from it. I know Norwich have kind of done a similar thing, and they've now they look like they're going to come down, having yo-yo twice, so to say. But
yeah, just quickly on Burnley. Burnley lost on Boxing Day and haven't lost since. I mean, that tells you all you need to know, doesn't it? Yeah. Right. Speaking, you mentioned Borough very briefly there, Jack, and Keno. It's time for the questions of the week. Have you got one for us?
I do. Very well worked, then, I must say. So yeah, for the Fans show on Twitter, we asked for questions before the show, as always, and we had some really good questions this week. Actually, I've picked out 4. I might go have a look through while you guys are answering and maybe see if there's any little cheeky ones I could put in.
All
but
right.
Charlie Taylor 82 asks, who would be more likely to survive ahead of tomorrow's game, Borough or Brighton, presumably in the Premier League? So,
that's a very nicely worded question, because it's not just who will get promoted, it's who would you think would survive?
I reworded it, but yeah.
Oh,
reworded.
Well on to you.
So we should explain for people, we do have some viewers, who aren't from England, perhaps don't follow the Championship. Just so you know the situation, Burnley are actually 2 points clear of both of these teams with 1 game left of the season, but because these two teams play against each other, Burnley are up. Now, the interesting thing here is the fact Borough's goal difference is better than Brighton's. And Brighton are playing away from home. So Brighton have got to go to Middlesbrough and get a win, of course. Middlesbrough lost last year in the Championship playoff final. So this game is pretty much a cup final with the exception of a draw, which would give Borough the advantage. So it's a really interesting... I love it when it comes down to this. The last game of the season matters. And both teams basically... Because one thing that annoys me about the end of the season is when you have 2 teams fighting for a position, but... one team is, they can still get the result and it doesn't really matter because the team who are already ahead of them kind of just maintain it. Whereas with this one, both teams only have themselves to blame if they don't, get what they need in this game. They know the stakes.
I think they both deserve to go up, but only one can. Tune in to Sky Sports, 12 o'clock tomorrow, Sky Sports 1 HD.
So in terms of who's more likely to survive...
But don't sponsor us, Keno, so who cares?
I've got to go with Borough. I think Borough have shown themselves to be a strong Championship team. I actually went to Brighton, to the Amex.
Independent young woman, I thought you were going to go there.
No, not quite.
Young woman?
Not yet. Maybe one day.
Just the kind of thing you say on a regular basis.
I went to the Amex last year, and it was actually on Easter to see Norwich v Brighton. I was talking to some Brighton fans on the train, and they basically came to the conclusion and kind of said, we're one good striker away from really, challenging for the playoffs and maybe a little bit more. They were very happy with the team. I think they had Chejera on loan from Liverpool, who they kind of were like, he's kind of filling that void a little bit, but he just doesn't have the goals in him. And obviously, Knockaert's kind of just stepped up this year and gone off, a bit like he did for Leicester back when he was playing for them in the Championship. And whilst I like that Brighton team, I feel like Borough, you look at their overall quality in their team, the fact they've consistently, got in the playoffs. Obviously, they lost in the playoff final last year. I look at their team, and there's players there that my lips get moist thinking about the prospects of them being in the Premier League. I'm looking at you, Jordan Rhodes.
Keno's response was correct at that point, by the way.
It's Jordan Rhodes. Jordan Rhodes in the Premier League, I feel like he's perhaps the player that has the biggest point to prove out of everyone, because there's so many kind of low-end...
For all of football?
Honestly, hear me out here.
What do you mean?
I think next year in the Premier League, he will be the player who has the most to prove out of anyone. More than Eden Hazard.
I was waiting for the moment, Ben.
And the reason I say this is because Jordan Rhodes is a player who, for so long, has proven himself in the Championship to get goals, and he's been linked with so many different moves to Premier League teams. You look at the likes of Hull, and there's been this price tag commanded of him of £12 million. It's now time to find out, can he actually do it at that level? And I think if Borough go up, he is the difference between them either staying up or not staying up.
Right, so you think that...
I think Borough are the best bet to stay up and to go up. And I actually hope they do, because I want to see what Jordan Rhodes can do.
Not Mahrez, not Hazard, not Kane.
I feel like they...
Jordan Rhodes, everyone.
I know,
Jordan Rhodes.
Jordan Rhodes.
Jordan Rhodes. Yeah, you're right. Jordan Rhodes. I agree. I think Middlesbrough are more likely to go up and maybe even start if they go up. But do you know what? Part of me would like them both to go up because they've had really good years. So hopefully the team that comes third wins the playoff.
You'd think there'd be a rule.
So just think,
You'd think there'd be a rule in the playoffs where it's like if the team in fourth finished X amount of points behind the team in third just get the spot. Just give it to them.
No, they should get a goal. Keno, any more questions? Preferably not about Jordan Rhodes.
Moving on from that Jordan Rhodes sort of dominated question.
You can see Charlie Austin's gone off the boil, folks, can't you? Charlie Austin's gone off the boil. He's working on another one. All right, go on.
This is Andrew Webb, the Nuneaton Fox, asks, with the recent local elections happened yesterday in the UK,
where's this going?
Which manager do you think would make the best politician?
Oh, it's got to be Roberto Martinez. That guy bullshits for England.
Yeah.
Roberto Martinez is the king of spin.
He's the king of positivity. I can't work out if he's a really positive person or if he's just really clever and realises he's fucked.
Although I think I'd quite like Roberto Martinez in my backroom staff, and I think I'd go with someone like Pardew as the face of the organisation. Yeah.
I think Martinez could do it, but he's not English, which I think would hurt him. I mean, I don't know how the Spanish would react to him, to be honest. I'm just trying to think
Sean
about this.
Dyche, maybe? A straight talking, honest politics. Yeah.
Steve Evans.
I think Roy would fit in. Roy Hodgson would fit in with the current mould, maybe.
I think
Simeone would fit in Turkey.
I could see Roy. Oh, yeah.
Do you get that?
I think I could see someone like Hodgson.
Apologies,
I could see someone like Hodgson, going to do that. I could see Hodgson in the Commons sort of strolling around. Yeah.
Lord Hodgson.
Lord Hodgson of Soho.
So Roy Hodgson.
Maybe Gary
Neville. See that happening soon.
Anyway, next question. Let's not dwell. Now I want this in one word. O Campione asks, most important player for England this summer at the Euros. The most important player. Ben?
Eric Dyer.
That's 2 words.
Jack?
Oh, sorry.
Jack?
Gareth Bale. No, hear me out. Because I think if he turns up for Wales and Wales beat us, that's the difference between us getting to the knockout stage and not.
What about in the quarters, though? Is he still the most important one?
No, he's not then. Sorry, I wanted to make a curveball answer, and I realise now it's very difficult to justify my answer.
Semis.
I think Dele Alli.
I like the fact you've got Bale, I've destroyed it, and you've got Dele Alli.
Sorry, I thought we meant the group stage. I mean, England are still going to go out in the group stage if Bale performs well.
I know you said one word, Kino, but I think if Dyer keeps his head, we'll be fine. If Dyer loses his head, that's going to cost us something, probably. I mean, he's shown all the traits of a man that will be sent off an international tournament. So, I think we can something to look forward to.
Callum,
who, sorry?
What about you? Callum.
Oh, yeah, Callum. Who do you think?
Delph? I think.
Both went there.
Immediately.
I think Harry Kane, actually.
Benteke? Not Gareth Bale? Benteke, think about the quarterfinals. Think about the quarterfinals when he's brought on for Belgium.
If Benteke scores now to knock England out, then you'll be sorry.
Who is England's most important player? Gareth Bale. Next question.
Final question. You've had a bit of time to think about this one because I told you before. Chris Jones, what's the funniest football incident you've ever seen live? This is a very good question.
Jack, you had one, so go on, Jack. This is going to be good. I can sense it, Jack.
I went to an away game at Huddersfield some years ago now, and there was a rather large chap trying to get through the turnstiles, and he got stuck. And he missed the first 25 minutes of the game.
Did he really?
They had to get a fire service. I don't know if this is funny. It was funny at the time because he was laughing his head off, and the more he laughed, the more it dug into him and hurt. So you know when you laugh when you're not allowed to laugh. It was like that, but there was like a big commotion. All his mates just kind of left him, and he kind of turned up. Like you could hear when he walked in, everyone just started going away. Like it was very funny. Like everyone knew because there's not, if you go to Huddersfield, there's not many like away fan areas to go in. It's quite limited. So everyone walked past this guy. You like
talking about northern towns, don't you? At the moment, Jack.
I love
Ben, what was your? I'm sure Ben's got a good one with his varied football history.
I've got a couple that are like contenders. I've got nothing hilarious, but I'll come out with 2. I think. Right, number 1. I was a ball boy in at Norwich. It was away at, but it was a home. Sorry, home. I wasn't
away at Burnley.
That was weird. They wouldn't take me. It was Burnley and Norwich, and I was sat. For those that have been to Carrad, I was sat just in front of the Snake Pit, which is known for being a little bit rambunctious around Christmas time.
Is that what it's called?
Snake Pit, yeah. It's not. It's more like snake. I don't know what you call it. Snake skin.
It's quite menacing. Is that the stand?
It is quite menacing. No, it's just the corners.
It's because all the people there are really inbred, so they don't actually have limbs.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
Anyway, I was sat like quite in the open, and it was snowing. It was freezing. If anyone could find this, it was around sort of the 2005-2006 season. It was snowing really, really heavily, and I had a little bobble hat on, and it created a bit of a mound of snow. And the Snake Pit sang "The Ball Boy's a Snowman" for about 3 minutes. But I had to sort of sit there and take it.
That's actually quite good.
Everyone was like, well, I mean, I'll just sit here and just embrace it. And every time I got the ball,
what's it like to have a song chanted about you, Ben, by a football crowd?
I'll be honest, it was just after the 12 Huckabees, 11 Huckabees, and I wasn't enjoying it, Keno.
Can I just say, that's the worst song in football. If you don't know, it's the 12 Days of Christmas, but instead of actual objects, it's just Darren Huckabee repeatedly.
Well, Eric Cantona's got it as well. The other one I would have is that I stole Ian Holloway's chewing gum once. I was another ball boy incident. So the ball boys at Norwich used to sit in the away dugout during half time, get a cup of tea and whatnot, sit in the away dugout, and I was positioned just to the left of the away dugout. And there was a chewing gum on the desk. I don't know who it was. They left it. I thought, you know what, I'm having that.
Chewed or ready to go?
No, it was like a half-eaten packet of chewing gum. So like there was some left in it, which was left on the bench. Oh, sorry. And yeah, I saw Ian Holloway come back out, sat on his bench, feel around for his chewing gum, and then like ask every member of the bench, "Have you seen my chewing gum?" And I knew that I had it in my pocket.
Did you go and give it him back, or did
Absolutely
you?
not. No,
right,
no,
we need to
I
get
enjoyed
everyone to
it. I
tweet
enjoyed that
him.
chewing gum. And listeners, if you want to win that chewing gum, email in at we don't have an email. But yeah, I guess the ball boy stories. I've got all sorts of ball boy stories.
Very
Met Jake come
I feel like I
as well.
have funniest stories, but I just can't think of them. It's because I've not been a ball boy.
We'll come back next week. Why not?
It's because I've not been a ball boy and I've not stolen things. That's why I don't have any funny stories.
Another one. I once played on Carrow Road, and you could play like before the games. They had like school invitational things or like local club invitational things. You play like 16 minutes each way on the pitch.
Ben's a Liverpool fan to claim.
And I shot the ball. Yeah, but a local innit. I shot the ball. I was a good player. I shot the ball at goal in sort of the last 2-3 minutes of said game we were playing at the time. It's like on a small-sided pitch. It wasn't like a full pitch thing. And slipped on a white line and winded myself, and we had to cancel the game. The rest of the game was cancelled.
Oh no!
So I got winded. Yeah.
Not the funniest thing you've ever seen at a football
I mean,
match,
my teammates thought it was bloody funny, but I didn't.
I know what the funniest thing I've seen on a football pitch is. Villa this year.
I mean, there wasn't a feature this week, but let's consider those 3 stories the feature. How about that?
Jack mentioned Villa this year. For me, that's up there.
Just the whole season.
Can I just be clear? You have a season. Do you have a season ticket?
Of course.
And how many games have you been to this year?
All but one very recently.
Oh, okay,
so pretty much all of them.
You're not one of those fickle ones who hasn't turned up. Because I've noticed throughout this year, Villa Park progressively get more blue with the seats being on show.
Can you blame us?
Callum,
I'm not.
Bit of an exclusive.
Can I get my story out?
Nah, bit of an exclusive for the listeners. I'm doing a series soon, and I'm doing the Villa season, Keno, in a 5-part series to see if I can better what happened this year.
Well, I'm sure. I'm confident, Ben, that you will do a better job because.
Well, we'll see. I've seen the squad.
You can't really get
not that pleased. Anyway, go on.
£150 million worth of squad.
You've got a story. Yeah? Is it when Tim Sherwood checked his heart rate? It looked like he put a gun to his neck.
No, that's a brilliant one. However, no, my story is from the world of football. It was not on a football pitch during a match. As you may know, Peter Crouch once played for Aston Villa many moons ago, probably about a decade ago.
You watched the feature a few weeks ago. You know all about it.
Yeah, the week that Peter Crouch signed for Villa, I think it was in January. I can't remember how this happened. Young Callum, probably I was maybe 11 or 12, had just probably a little.
We'll call him Callum Teen for the Callum Teen.
Yeah, young Callum had got a personal. I don't know how this was personal. A personal tour of Bodymoor Heath, the Villa training ground, obviously. And it was the day that. Sorry.
Who gave the tour? Who does that tour?
Tim Sherwood.
Me and my mum were walking around with
David O'Leary. Yeah.
I can't remember. It was one of the backroom staff. But anyway, so
it was 18 of the Aston Villa kids.
Can you stop interrupting?
I've heard that's what Jack Grealish is doing these days.
He's not been seen there for months. So who knows?
Shall we mention Delph again? Sorry, Keno.
So I was going around the training ground, and it was Peter Crouch's first day, and we got into the player sort of dining room, lounge area, and they'd all just come in from training, so I was busy getting my autographs. And then a little buzz arrived as people realised that Peter Crouch, the new signing, was about to turn up and say hello to the lads. And as he sort of came into the training ground, I was waiting eagerly with my autograph book, and he came attempted to get into the room, and being the 6'7" sort of behemoth that he is, promptly, very, very heavily bumped his head on the door, and the entire Villa first team burst into raptures of laughter, and all sort of ran over to him in a joking way to check that he was all right. And I've never seen a more embarrassed footballer, because usually they're quite cocksure of themselves. Peter Crouch, bless him, was quite shaken by that incident.
Oh,
and then
Pete.
Then I got his autograph and checked that he was all right, and it was all fine. But that was one thing.
I'd like to think he banked his head because he bent over to do your autograph, and then as he sat back up again, bang, cracked his head on the.
Well, he didn't get there. He didn't get to me because the door got in the way.
I mean, it is quite funny. I just like the idea of little Callum walking around the Villa players, going, "Oh, hello, J. Lloyd Samuel. Can I have your autograph, please?"
Dion Dublin.
Dublin was there. Who else was there?
Dion Dublin, Lee Hendry.
Was it one Pablo Angel time?
Yeah, Angel.
Oh, yes. Love that.
The glory days. Yeah.
Who was the keeper back then? David James there?
Peter Schmeichel for a little while. Might have been.
That's bizarre, isn't it? That doesn't seem right.
One of the only goalkeepers to score in the Premier League for the Villa, of course. Scored.
Well done. I mean, do you get 3 points for that this season? Because you could do with them. Right. Shall we? Any more questions, or are we going to wrap things up there? We went on longer than I anticipated.
No, I think we more than filled our question.
Yeah, we did a bit of a story time at the end. just waffled. Right then, if you've enjoyed today's show, please give it a like on YouTube. If you enjoyed it on iTunes, do leave a rating. Thank you to those that have been leaving ratings. We do appreciate it very much. We've still not got our European Championship update. We'll have one of those next week, perhaps. Jack, thanks for joining me.
No worries, anytime.
Weird pause there. Callum, thank you.
Thank you very much, Ben. Thank you, everyone.
Good. Right then, as I say, you can find us on YouTube, on the internet, ForTheFansShow.com, Twitter @ForTheFans, and or @ForTheFansShow, sorry. And leave us your thoughts over the weekend. If anything good happens, let us know. Right then, we'll see you again soon. With love, with care, from me, that's Benji. Until next time, goodbye. Jordan Rhodes, Gareth Bale.
Sculpture of a goal, Benji. It's perfection. Keener, I think you're going to have to be calling for an oxygen mask over here, my friend.